A few years ago, I was coaching a woman who told me, Matt, I did everything right. I texted first, planned the dates, showed him how much I cared, and he still ghosted me. She looked at me devastated and said, maybe I'm just not enough. And I said to her, number, you weren't too little. You were too much too soon. See, the crazy part about love is that it's not always about how much you give. It's about when and why you give it. And sometimes the most powerful move you can make is the one where you don't move at all. Today, I want to flip the script you've been fed your whole life, that the harder you try, the more he'll love you. Because what if I told you the real magic happens when you stop chasing and start attracting? There's a moment early in my life I'll never forget. I was in my 20s, chasing after someone I thought was the one. I bent over backwards to be liked, changed plans, answered every message instantly, constantly tried to prove I was the right choice. But the more I did, the less they seemed to value it. That gnawed at me. And it taught me something fundamental. When you put someone else on the pedestal, you inevitably step off your own. See, somewhere along the way, we've been sold this warped idea that being chosen is the goal. That if we just show up more, love more, give more, we'll earn love in return. But you don't earn love by erasing yourself. You don't attract respect by abandoning your boundaries. You are not a product to be sold at a discount hoping someone finally checks out. You're the damn prize. And being the prize isn't arrogance. It's self-respect. It's understanding that your time, your heart, your energy, they're investments, not giveaways. Think about the most valuable things in life wealth, mastery, character. They're never given freely. They're built, earned, and protected. Why would your love be any different? When you act like the prize, your behavior changes. You don't chase people who are indifferent. You don't rearrange your life for someone who hasn't even earned a place in it. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's attention. That shift in mindset doesn't just change your love life, it changes your entire life. People who see their value stop begging. They start building, and they attract not just partners, but opportunities that align with their worth. You can't be chosen by someone else until you choose yourself first. People confuse activity with impact all the time. I see it in relationships, in careers, in how people chase wealth. There's this idea that if you're not constantly doing, constantly giving, constantly proving, you're falling behind. But often, the most effective people I've met are the ones who know when not to act. The ones who understand that doing less isn't weakness, it's precision, it's power. I remember working with a young woman, brilliant, capable, giving. She had been in a relationship where she did everything, planned the dates, initiated every conversation, carried the emotional weight. She thought love meant effort, and the more effort she gave, the more secure the bond would be. But what she created wasn't intimacy, it was imbalance. He didn't lean in because she never left space for him to. This is the same psychology I've seen in wealth building. People think if they're not constantly grinding, constantly hustling, they'll fall behind. But the most successful people I know are those who take intentional action, not frantic movement. They know when to hold back, observe, let opportunities reveal themselves. That's not laziness. That's strategy. In relationships, it's the same. When you do less, you stop trying to control the outcome. You let the other person reveal their intentions. You allow space for genuine connection instead of forcing it into existence. You give the relationship room to breathe, and in that oxygen, real desire is born. There is tremendous power in restraint, because doing less doesn't mean you're not invested. It means you're invested in the right things, the ones that invest back. When I was growing up, my father had this rule: you don't appreciate what you haven't worked for. Whether it was buying my first guitar or saving for my own car, I had to put in something before I could receive. And I'll tell you something, it stuck. Because once you've invested your own energy, time, and focus into something, it becomes meaningful. You protect it. You show up for it. It's no different in relationships. We are wired biologically and psychologically to value what we've had to stretch to attain. Yet I see far too many people, especially women, giving themselves away emotionally before the man has made any meaningful investment. They give their attention freely, their time, their care, their loyalty, all before the other person has truly earned access to those parts of them. That kind of giving feels generous, but it ends up being empty. Not because the love isn't real, but because the other person hasn't had to earn the experience of it. Think about wealth. The most successful people are the ones who built it not, those who were handed it. Why? Because the process gave them character. It changed who they were. That's what makes the outcome matter. If a man doesn't have to step into effort, responsibility, or reflection to access your heart, he will not see its value. That isn't harsh, it's simply how humans work. So you have to let him earn you. Let him work for your presence, your time, your softness. Not to punish him, but to allow him the gift of rising to something meaningful. Because only then will he truly respect it. People value what they've invested in, so give him the chance to invest. People often mistake space for rejection. They think if they're not constantly available, if they don't respond right away, if they don't keep the energy going, the other person will lose interest. But that reveals something deeper, a lack of faith, not just in the connection, but in themselves. And I've seen this pattern over and over in both relationships and wealth building. When people don't know their value, they panic at the first pause. They chase. They fill every silence. But here's the truth. Nothing meaningful grows without space. When I was first learning to write, I would cram every idea onto the page. No margins, no breathing room, just noise. And it didn't work. The reader had no place to pause, to feel. That's what I see in people who over-message, over-express, overperform in relationships. They think the connection needs constant fuel. But like a fire, it doesn't grow with more wood. Alone, it needs oxygen. Without space, it smothers. Space isn't silence. It's not ignoring someone or withholding love. It's the discipline to let the other person choose to move toward you. It's the maturity to allow uncertainty, not as manipulation, but as part of the natural rhythm of connection. Because when you leave space, you create the conditions for desire, curiosity, pursuit. And it's the same in wealth. You don't get rich by chasing every shiny object. You get rich by planting seed sand, letting some of them grow without digging them up every 5 minutes to see if they're working. Relationships are no different. Trust the space. Let the oxygen do its job. You don't build value by always being present. You build it by knowing your absence is just as meaningful. When I was younger, I used to think if I just explained myself well enough, laid out my values, made my intentions clear, articulated what I wanted, people would respect that. But what I learned, often painfully, is that people don't respond to what you say you value, they respond to what you live. Your standards, the ones you enforce through action, are what shape how others treat you. It's the same whether you're negotiating a business deal or entering a relationship. If you say you want someone emotionally present, but continue to engage with someone who is inconsistent and unavailable, you're teaching them something very different than what your words claim. You're saying, this is fine. And that's what they'll believe, not because they're cruel, but because we all learn through behavior, not declarations. I've coached people trying to build wealth who say, I want to be financially independent while spending impulsively and avoiding any disciplined structure. Their bank account doesn't listen to their desire, it listens to their habits. And so does a partner. If you say you value commitment and then keep entertaining someone who flakes, you're lowering your market value emotionally. Not because you're less worthy, but because your behavior tells them they don't need to step up. The bar you set high, more importantly, the one you keep either attracts effort or excuses. Standards aren't ultimatums, they're boundaries enforced with calm consistency. They're the quiet decisions you make when no one's watching. And they're the reason someone decides whether or not to meet you at your level. People listen less to what you demand and more to what you tolerate. I've worked with people who lead every part of their life sharp, successful, organized. But when it comes to relationships, they carry the entire emotional structure on their back. They plan the dates, initiate the conversations, manage the tone, anticipate needs, even downplay their own discomfort just to keep things moving. And at some point, they burn out. Not because they're weak, but because they're doing the work of two people while calling it love. There's a psychological cost to constantly leading. It robs the other person of the opportunity to step forward. And that's a mistake, because the only way you really know someone's intentions is by watching what they do when you stop steering. If they disappear, you haven't lost anything, you've learned. If they rise to meet you, now you have something that's real. I've seen the same thing in people chasing success. They think if they micromanage every outcome, they'll get ahead. But real wealth, financial or emotional, isn't built from constant control. It's built from systems, discipline, and letting other forces do their part. The stock market grows over time. A business scales with the right partners, and a relationship deepens when it's mutual. If you're always leading, always rescuing, always managing the emotional tone, then what you're really doing is hiding from the fear that they won't choose you if you don't. But love that must be carried is not love that can last. A healthy relationship isn't built on one person showing up. It's built on two people meeting in the middle. Step back not to punish, not to manipulate, but to reveal. Because only in your absence will you see if he shows up with presence. There's a certain loneliness that comes from being liked by everyone, because deep down, you know they're not really liking you. They're liking the version you edited, softened, filtered, and molded just to be accepted. I've seen this happen to people who are brilliant, strong, opinionated, yet slowly sand down their edges in the hope that they'll be easier to love. And eventually, they lose the very thing that made them magnetic in the first place. When you chase approval, what you're really saying is that someone else's acceptance is more valuable than your own identity. You're outsourcing your self-worth. And over time, that strategy always collapses. I've worked with people who made millions doing work they hated, all because they followed a path that looked right to others. Their bank account was full, but they were bankrupt internally. Because success without self is empty, and love without authenticity is no different. In relationships, it shows up when you hold back your real thoughts. Laugh at things that don't amuse you. Say yes when you mean no, or avoid conflict to keep the peace. It's subtle, but over time it creates a deep resentment, not toward the other person, but toward yourself, because you know you're abandoning your truth in the name of connection. And any connection built on a lie, even a small one, is fragile. Authenticity doesn't guarantee you'll be liked by everyone, but it guarantees you'll be loved by the right ones. It's not efficient, but it's effective. Because when you stop trading yourself for approval, you start attracting people, opportunities, and relationships that can actually support the life you're meant to build. Don't water yourself down to be digestible for someone else. See if you do, you'll never taste your own life. There's a misconception that mystery is manipulation, that withholding parts of yourself is some kind of dating strategy to keep someone interested. But mystery, when it's real, isn't about withholding. It's about pacing. It's about respecting the natural rhythm of connection and understanding that deep things unfold over time. You don't walk into a library and read every book in one sitting. You choose one. You explore it. You let the story build. Relationships deserve the same patience. I've seen people give their whole life story in the first few dates, hoping vulnerability will fast-track intimacy. But what they're really doing is bypassing the process. And when you do that, you take away the tension, the curiosity, the sense of discovery that makes love compelling. Think about any valuable asset, you don't uncover it all at once. Wealth, for example, is something you build over time. It reveals its returns slowly. If it came overnight, it would likely disappear the same way. Mystery isn't about being distant or cold. It's about being intentional. You're not flooding the space, you're letting someone come closer on their own. You're not filling every silence, you're allowing moments to land. When you do that, you give the other person the chance to show initiative, to explore, to wonder. And wonder is powerful. Because when someone's mind starts working for you, they begin to emotionally invest. They imagine, they reflect, they reach. If someone needs constant stimulation to stay interested, that's not a sign of deep connection. That's a symptom of emotional immaturity. True connection is built slowly, layer by layer, with mutual effort and time. Let the story unfold, because if there's nothing left to discover, there's nothing left to stay for. One of the most damaging beliefs people carry is that love has to be earned through pursuit. That if you just try hard enough, show up perfectly, anticipate every need, somehow you'll secure your place in someone's life. But chasing is an anxious act. It's rooted in the fear of not being chosen, not in the belief that you are already enough. And when fear leads, dignity gets left behind. I've worked with individuals who approached love the same way they approached their careers relentlessly. They strategized every message, overthought every silence, treated relationships like negotiations. But unlike wealth, which can be built through active pursuit, love reveals itself through response. If he's meant for you emotionally available, ready, and mature, you won't have to convince him. You'll just have to be you, and he'll show up. Think of how financial wealth is cultivated. It's not by chasing every opportunity. It's by aligning with investments that reflect your long-term values. You don't beg a good investment to grow, it does, because it's rooted in the right conditions. And if something isn't yielding a return, you don't double down, you move on. That same principle applies in love. When a relationship requires constant effort just to hold its shape, it's not stable, it's exhausting. And that exhaustion is your signal, not your challenge. The right man doesn't confuse you. He doesn't make you question your worth or work overtime to earn clarity. His consistency will be louder than his charm, and his actions will align with his words. You won't have to chase him into a relationship. He'll walk into it with you. When something is real, you won't have to run after it. It will meet you where you stand. There's a kind of quiet desperation that creeps in when you start giving more than you should, hoping deep down that the volume of your effort will make someone choose you. I've seen people overextend emotionally, financially, even spiritually, all in the hope that the other person will finally see their worth. But that kind of giving isn't generosity. It's self-abandonment dressed as devotion. I remember speaking with someone who said, I gave him everything, support, loyalty, time, patience, and he still left. That's the danger of overgiving. It creates the illusion that if you just give a little more, you'll finally be enough. But in truth, giving beyond what someone has earned doesn't build intimacy, it builds imbalance. You end up depleted while they become entitled to something they never had to work for. It's the same mindset that keeps people poor. They spend energy where there's no return. They give time to things that don't grow. They invest in people and projects that take but never contribute. And when nothing changes, they don't pull back. They give more and burn out in the process. That's not wealth creation. That's emotional bankruptcy. Your energy is capital. It needs to be invested wisely. In love, that means waiting to see effort before offering emotional access. It means allowing someone to earn the best parts of you, not as a power move, but as an act of self-respect, because the right person won't need to be convinced. They'll recognize your value without you bleeding to prove it. You don't have to give all of yourself away to be loved. You just have to give to someone who's ready to give back. So as we close, I want you to remember this. Doing less isn't about playing games, being cold, or holding back love. It's about moving through the world with a quiet kind of strength, the kind that doesn't beg to be seen, because it already knows its worth. Real love isn't built through performance or pressure. It's built through mutual effort, through respect, through space that allows both people to rise into the relationship. Just like in wealth creation, the most valuable things in life are not given, they're earned, protected, and grown with care. Your energy is one of those things. Your love, your time, your attention, these are not freebies handed out in hopes someone will finally stay. They are investments. And if someone wants access to them, they must bring something of value to the table, to consistency, effort, truth. The moment you stop chasing, stop proving, and start aligning your behavior with your standards, something remarkable happens. You stop settling for those who take and start attracting those who build. Not because you chased them down, but because you stood still long enough for the right one to find you. That's the power of doing less and living more.